Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Wednesday, June 4th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by the converted Cubs fan, Scott White.
You're on. Is that what I am?
I see you donning the Cubs hat. Look at you.
I am wearing a Cubs hat after my first visit to Wrigley. Saw a Cubs game.
I am jealous.
Yeah, have you been to Wrigley before?
I have not, but I want to
go. Done that one. Well, I gotta say, it was a good time, Frank. It was. Now, so I will first put it out there because I left it kind of vague before I went. This wasn't a work trip. I didn't go to cover the Cubs or to interview Pete Crow Armstrong or anything. It was actually an anniversary trip. It was the 10th anniversary for my wife and me in our 14th year of marriage, because our 10th year of marriage was 2021. Wow. And yeah, we weren't traveling so much then. So we finally got around to doing the 10th anniversary in year 14, and she wanted to see Chicago. And, you know, if we're going to go to Chicago, if we're going to go to any major city, gotta check out a baseball game. And it just so happened that this was at one of the most beloved venues in all of baseball, Wrigley Field. And it was a good time. Obviously, I was keeping a close eye on Pete Crow Armstrong because, for better or worse, that's the player I feel like I've been most tied to this year. And he had a huge game. And I will say, he got the opening introductions. He got the loudest cheer by far from the fans. Like, he's clearly a fan favorite. It's not surprising he's a fan favorite because he plays like his hair's on fire, and it's orange, so it kind of looks like it's on fire too, except when he colors it differently. But yeah, he always seemed destined to become that, as a great defender with lots of speed and a high energy style of play. But of course, he's been MVP caliber so far this year too, so that's only endeared him to the fan base more. And he does things like when he crossed the plate to score one of, I think, a couple runs he scored that game. This was on Sunday. He high fives a fan behind the netting, behind the backstop. So you gotta love that. So clearly he's a fan favorite there now, and just the whole atmosphere was great. I'm sure I'm telling a bunch of people listening, they already know this. They maybe already experienced it themselves, but we were in the 400 level. Every seat was full. Of course, when the Cubs win, they play "Go Cubs Go," and everybody sings it. And nobody leaves when the game's over. They stand up and wait till the song is done playing, singing it. And you look around the stadium, and it's not like every fan has one, but all over the stadium they're holding up the white flags with the blue W on it, and it's just a really cool atmosphere. And we probably saw it at its very best because the Cubs are one of the best teams in baseball this year, so there's a lot of enthusiasm for them right now, obviously. But I understand it's not unusual. Like that, this is a long time tradition for that fan base in that stadium. So it was really cool to experience firsthand. And I would say, I haven't been to as many ballparks as you might expect someone who does what I do and has done it for as long as I have, because most of the work is done sitting in this chair behind a computer. But I would rate it second of all the stadiums I've been to. San Francisco is number one. And I'm not giving a lot of bonus points for the historic nature of the venue. I'm just rating it as I experienced it. And so I'd put Wrigley number 2 right after AT&T.
I love it. I am jealous, and I got to get out there, man. I've been telling my wife too. So hopefully it does happen soon. Get out there to Wrigley, but I am jealous. And I will point out that behind the scenes, when I linked up with Scott here, he was singing the "Go Cubs Go" song. So
it's been in my head ever since. I've just kind of been singing it under my breath constantly.
Pete Crow Armstrong, by the way, or Eat Crow Armstrong, as I saw you posted on Twitter this weekend, updated 162 game pace after Tuesday. 40 homers, 129 runs, 137 RBI, 56 steals. I would still take the under, but you know what? He just keeps proving us wrong. So just thought I would provide that to everybody. Today on the show, we are going streaking. What does that mean? We'll take a look at players who have really picked things up lately. They're streaking in a good way. Also, some polarizing pitchers and waiver wire moves, plus much more. Let's jump in.
Oh my goodness gracious!
You know what? It would have made more sense for me to use a Cubs soundbite, right? If I was paying attention. But of course I wasn't. Scott, your player of the night, Lance McCullers.
He did it again. Lance McCullers, 6 shutout innings, only 2 hits allowed, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. This was coming off the game that kind of put him back on the fantasy map. It was his previous outing, 12 strikeouts against the Athletics. So this is 2 really valuable starts in a row. I do need to point out that this particular start came against what I think is the worst offense in baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates. And so that, you have to grade it on a little bit of a curve there. But he did again, is the point. Back-to-back starts. And I was really nervous about recommending him as a sleeper pitcher coming off the 12 strikeout game. I felt like he obviously had to be not just one of the sleeper pitchers, but number one among those rostered in less than 80% of CBS Sports leagues, because not only was he lined up for 2 starts, but they were 2 great matchups. And I just knew, given, Lance McCullers, he's as good as that start was against the Athletics with all the strikeouts. It's not like his velocity returned pre-surgery. It probably was just a flash in the pan, and it's all going to blow up in our face now. That was kind of the urge I was fighting against as I was looking at the matchups and looking at the alternatives and deciding he needed to be number one. But lo and behold, he came through against the Pirates. So we continue to hope against hope. Maybe that's not even the right way to put it. We continue to let it play out. See how long Lance McCullers can keep this going with the reduced velocity. He does have 2 great breaking balls. He didn't emphasize them as much in this start as he did in the Athletic start. So I was thinking maybe that was the key for him. If he really leaned into those 2 pitches at the expense of everything else, maybe he could find a way to make it work. And he didn't continue with that against the Pirates, and it worked anyway. So I think, if McCullers still happens to be out there in your league, or if you picked him up just for the 2 starts, you should stick with him a little longer, see how long he can make it work.
I mostly agree with all that. I think, again, if you picked him up, you hold on to him, let's see where it goes. But I do just wonder a little bit, if he was facing a better opponent, would he have had similar results here? Because he only had 9 whiffs on 96 pitches, and he allowed 9 hard hits in this game, 92.8 average exit velocity. So I don't mean to be so nitpicky. Obviously, I'm rooting for the guy. He's, coming back after missing years due to injury. But part of me just wonders aloud, Scott, if he was facing a better offense, would this have been the same result? I don't know.
Well, we can't know. That's the thing. We can't know. I wonder as well. I will say that historically, he has been a ground ball pitcher pretty clearly, over 50%, sometimes verging on 60%, which is among the best ground ball rates in the league. I don't know what his ground ball rate was for this game specifically. I don't know if we have a way to look that up, but it has been lower this year. He hasn't been as much of a ground ball pitcher as he has historically, but if he's getting back to that, ground ball pitchers tend to give up harder contact. You look at his career exit velocities by year, it's often like 89 miles per hour, which isn't low. Mm-hmm. And if that exit velocity is mostly going into the ground, it's not that big of a deal. So that's something else to keep an eye on with Lance McCullers, how many ground balls he's getting.
The ground ball rate in this start was 46% for McCullers, and for the season it's 44%, which is below his career mark is 55%. So
right. So not quite there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, but if nothing else, it's worth letting it play out a little longer.
All right, let's talk about my player of the night, Addison Barger, who will not stop hitting home runs, 2 for 4 with his 6th home run of the season. I believe this is 4 games in a row with a home run for Barger, but this has been going on for quite some time. Not all the home runs, but just doing damage. So last 23 games for Barger, 325 batting average, 6 homers, 16 RBI, and OPS over 1,000, and just crushing the ball. 95.6 average exit velocity, 17% barrel rate. Once upon a time, there was some prospect pedigree here with Barger. He's getting a chance to play what looks like every day. He has sat out 1 time since May 8th. So he is playing quite a bit here for the Blue Jays. 34% rostered, Scott, just feels way too low for someone that's homered in 4 straight and has looked this good over the past month or so.
Yeah, we're starting to see the production to back up the very impressive data. I mean, very impressive. Like all the reasons I liked Jonathan Aranda coming into the year, they apply to Addison Barger as well. 95th percentile XBA and X slug, 99th percentile average exit velocity, 99th percentile average exit velocity. And if you're thinking, oh, but what about max exit velocity? That's 97th percentile. So it's like, it's the line I use for a player like this is his baseball savant page looks like Urkel's report card. And that is true for Addison Barger. And that's with a high pull air rate. So it's not like he's falling short in that regard. That's with a strikeout rate of only 21%, which isn't bad at all. And it's all coming together for Barger. So if you didn't see fit to make a move for him yet, because, okay, that's all fine and good, but where's the actual production? Well, now it's coming. And that should... you should take a second look at that data and buy into him for sure now.
Mm-hmm. So Barger has third base and outfield eligibility. Just looking at some potential names that maybe we can drop here. Well, I guess we'll talk about this in a bit, but Mark Vientos goes in the IL. So that's a pretty clear just injury replacement at the position if you do need help there. But someone like Arenado, who we spoke about recently, Scott, like I think there's a little bit more punch with Barger. I would be okay making that move. Dropping Arenado for Barger.
Yeah, I would say so.
What about Royce Lewis, who is, I mean, entering Tuesday? I think he was like 0 for his last 30 or something. He's just in a crazy slump right now.
He is, and he was in a crazy slump for basically the entire second half last year too. So that's a lot of slumping all in a row, even with the offseason in between. Obviously, the case for a Royce Lewis decline isn't as strong as it is for Arenado. Arenado obviously being at the tail end of his career, Lewis theoretically being in the prime of his career. So I'd be a little more hesitant to make that move. I think in a very shallow league where you can only roster 1 third baseman, you need the production right now. Maybe you could justify swapping out Lewis for Barger, but in the case of a standard size league, I would hope you have someone lesser you can drop.
Would you take Barger over any of these names that have popped up on the waiver wire lately? Max Muncy, Miguel Vargas, and Brett Beatty.
I kind of like all of them, so that's a tough one. But I think so. Yeah, I think Barger needs to go to the top of that list. I think the upside is higher.
Max Muncy, by the way, just hit his 2nd home run of the game, which tied the game in the 9th inning. And let's see if I can get these stats updated here. In 28 games since putting the glasses on for Max Muncy, which has helped tremendously. He is hitting .267 with 8 home runs, 30 RBI, and an OPS over 900. That's a 28 game stretch there.
Well, yeah. And obviously he has a lot of proven upside. He is also closer to the end of his career than the beginning, like we were saying about Arenado. 34 years old is Max Muncy, and he's been sitting a lot more against left-handers this year than in years past. If this continues much longer, could that change? I suppose it could. And I do think he's under rostered. Like, he needs to be picked up in a lot more leagues than he is, obviously, because being able to see the ball better is important, and he was still hitting the ball plenty hard even when he was struggling. It's closest between Muncy and Barger, with the others you mentioned there, Brett Beatty, and who was the fourth?
Miguel Vargas.
Yeah. It's I would say Muncy and Barger are the top two of those four in terms of my interest level. Muncy in points leagues has the walks, at least he normally does. I'm not actually familiar with his walk rate so far this year. Let's see. Yeah, it's still really high. Yeah, you might give the edge to Muncy in a points league at least, but it's really close between him and Barger.
All right. Before we hit our first break, just a programming note that, all right, Scott, you had your little time off here. Next up is me. We're just swapping places pretty much because I'm going to be out the next 3 podcasts, actually going to be in Puerto Rico. So if any of our listeners have recommendations on where to go in San Juan, hit me up. I mean, I've done a bunch of research already, but if anyone knows any more, please let me know. But obviously, you'll be in good hands here. Scott and Chris will hold you down on the podcast while I'm out. So that will be for tomorrow night, Thursday night, and then the weekend recap for that I'll be gone. And these guys will, be here to do the podcast. Thanks to those watching us live. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Let's take that break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. News and notes. And Scott, this will be a little opportunity to catch you up as well on some things. But Corbin Burnes was officially placed on the IL with right elbow inflammation. On top of that, he's getting a second opinion from well-known surgeon Dr. Neil Elatraj. And look, which is always an ominous sign. So don't know how this is going to go. I'm always pessimistic. I always lean like, all right, it's probably not going to go well. But obviously, we're still waiting to learn more about Corbin Burnes. Ryan Nelson will take his place in the rotation in the meantime.
It is ominous. It's even more ominous that, what was the exact line? The concern level's more than minimal from Torey Lovello. Now, I think he's getting a second opinion because it was inconclusive, what they saw with the swelling and the inflammation. From the first look at it. So, it's not decided yet, but I'm definitely concerned about Corbin Burnes. Yes.
Do you have any interest in Ryan Nelson?
It's not zero. It's not high. He strangely has been very effective the last couple of years when he throws his four-seamer a ton, when he throws it like upward of 60%. And he had a stretch toward the end of last year where he was doing that consistently, and he just kept having success. I think it's kind of fake. I don't see a lot in the data other than just he's using his fastball a lot to explain why he's so strong when he does that. But I can imagine worse pitchers to take a flyer on, at least in a deeper league.
All right. Next up, Eury Perez is set to make his season debut on Monday of next week against the Pirates. So that should line him up as a 2-star pitcher in his final start at AAA. On Tuesday, he went 4 1/3 innings, 2 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. He got up to 82 pitches, had 10 whiffs. He averaged 97.9 miles per hour on the fastball. I love seeing that pitch count get up here, Scott. If Eury Perez is all the way up to 82, I have no reason to think, first couple of times out, he's going to give you at least 80 to 90 pitches here. So 74% rostered. We've been saying it for the past month. I mean, this is your last chance to get Eury Perez.
Yeah, presumably. He's 44th in my rest of season rankings at starting pitcher, which might surprise a lot of people. Been steadily moving up as his approach neared. Velocity has looked good. We only have the 2 AAA rehab starts to judge it on, but the velocity seems normal. Slider use is a little down. It was, I think, 31% when we last saw him, and it's been like 19% in those 2 AAA starts. And sometimes pitchers seem hesitant to use that pitch coming off a major elbow problem. So that's something to monitor with Eury Perez. But I think if to the degree it's a concern, it's a short-term concern. And overall, I think we have every reason to be encouraged by what he's done in the minors, and the upside is enormous.
All right, next up, Hunter Green left his start early due to a flare-up of his groin injury, and that's not good because he went on the IL earlier this season. He hasn't looked the same since coming off the IL too, so I wonder if maybe he just wasn't right the entire time. Maybe they rushed him back a little bit, but obviously not great, and wouldn't be surprised if either misses a start or has to go back on the IL. Again, that is Hunter Green. Pablo Lopez was removed from Tuesday's start due to a shoulder injury, shoulder tightness that he suffered during warm-ups in the 6th inning. So, and Pablo Lopez has a history of shoulder injuries as well. So not great. We'll wait to learn more on that. Kyle Tucker was out of the lineup with a jammed right ring finger he suffered this weekend. Craig Counsell downplayed any concern there. Bryce Harper returned to the lineup after missing 5 straight with a bruised elbow. He went 1 for 3 with his 9th home run of the season. Cole Reagans is scheduled to return Thursday against the Cardinals. He missed a couple of weeks with a groin injury of his own. Mookie Betts returned to the lineup after missing 4 games with a fractured toe. Jazz Chisholm was reinstated after missing a month due to an oblique strain. He went 2 for 3 with his 8th home run of the season. After the Dodgers loss on Monday, Dave Roberts said the team currently has, quote, no dedicated closer, although it seems like that's how they kind of always operate. So
yeah. He's telling us what we already know.
Yeah. Tanner Scott in his last 7 games before Tuesday, because I think he actually just came in and pitched pretty well. It was a 15 ERA and a 2.67 whip. So
what if they had treated him like a dedicated closer? Would it have gone better?
Perhaps.
We'll never know.
Tanner Scott, by the way, a clean inning, clean 10th? I think it was the 10th inning. Yeah, clean 10th inning with 2 strikeouts. So, yeah, nice little bounce back outing there for him. I guess there's a chance like Alex Vesia or Ben Kasparius can maybe pick up a couple saves along the way. I don't know. No surprise, but with Luke Weaver going on the IL, Aaron Boone said Devin Williams will be the team's primary closer. And, of course, he was thrust right into the action, got the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He gave up a run on 2 hits, but did pick up his 6th save of the season. So but wasn't easy, but he's the guy.
Yeah, and this was his 2nd save since April 17th. The first save was also very rocky, even though for the most part he's pitched great since being removed from the closer role. You almost wonder if there's something mental going on there at some point, but he'll get a lot of runway this time. And my hunch is that 4 to 6 weeks is enough time for him to just nail down the role again. And probably we're done with Luke Weaver as the saves guy. I'm not saying if in leagues where saves are scarce, you go ahead and drop Weaver. Certainly if you can stash him in an IL spot, that's preferable. But if you're asking me to predict the one way this goes, and not leave open a bunch of alternate paths with, a certain probability of them happening as well. I just got one shot to get it right. My guess is Devin Williams is gonna nail it down again.
All right, Mark Vientos is headed to the IL with a right hamstring strain. As a result, Ronnie Mauricio was recalled, and Mauricio, a big-name prospect, he missed all of last year with a torn ACL. In 19 games in the minors this season, was hitting .323 with 3 homers, 6 steals, and .892 OPS, 22% rostered on CBS, where he has second base eligibility, but obviously could pick up third base eligibility now as well. Scott, any interest in Ronnie Mauricio?
I mean, I'm not confident he's going to play a ton. I think the Vientos injury really gives the Mets an opportunity to give Brett Beatty a full run at full time at bats again, and the way he's played recently, he's earned it. So that would be my initial take. Does Mauricio have upside? Of course he does. He hits the ball very hard. He has speed to go along with that power, but the on base skills are lacking, and that might also, just in terms of finding him at bats, might work against him.
Yeah, he did start here on Tuesday, but it was against a lefty and Clayton Kershaw. So perhaps a short side platoon here for Mauricio to start. But I am intrigued by the skill set. There's power, there's speed. So it's a situation I definitely want to pay attention to. Tyler Glasnow downplayed his general body soreness and said he's likely to throw another bullpen Friday or Saturday. Rays president Eric Neander said that Shane McClanahan could potentially return in late July or early August. We're still pretty far away from that point. Anthony Santander will rest 5 to 7 days after receiving a PRP injection in his injured left shoulder. Max Meyer can't hurt us anymore, Scott. He went on the IL with a left hip impingement, but I mean, Chris and I basically gave him a fantasy funeral yesterday. We said it was okay. It was time to go ahead and drop Max Meyer. Jason Dominguez was out of the lineup on Tuesday and is day-to-day with a jammed left thumb. Brandon Woodruff will undergo x-rays after being hit on the right elbow by a comebacker during a minor league rehab start. Ezekiel Tovar will be out until at least Friday with a tweaked oblique. Reese Olson received an injection to address the inflammation in his right ring finger and is expected to resume playing catch on Thursday. Max Scherzer will pitch either in a Florida Complex League game or a simulated game this weekend. He last threw a 40-pitch bullpen here on Tuesday and is ready to take the next step in his rehab. Evan Carter was reinstated from the IL, and he is 34% rostered. Scott, any interest in a Evan Carter here?
Sure, in 5 outfielder leagues, I like the upside still. I would not even think about adding Evan Carter if Addison Barger is still available. It's not a contest there.
Yeah. What about Parker Meadows, who returned on Monday and had a great game?
I would prefer Meadows to Carter too. You just reminded me I need to move him way up my rankings, which I thought I was done with. Many hours spent in the rankings today, but
we're never done, Scott. Never done with the rankings.
Go before I sleep.
Nick Gonzalez was reinstated from the 60-day IL. He's been out since March with a fractured ankle, 7% rostered. Any interest in a Nick Gonzalez?
Not really.
Yeah, I think it's mostly NL only at this point. Sawyer Gibson-Long of the Tigers will start Wednesday against the White Sox, taking Jackson Job's spot in the rotation. Numbers look good in the minors, Scott. I mean, there was some prospect pedigree here. I think it's a scout team. Let's watch and see how this goes. But I think there's a little bit of upside here with Sawyer Gibson-Long.
So, yeah, if you'll remember 2023, he came up late in the year, 4 starts for the Major League Club, had a 2.70 ERA, 1.10 WHIP, 11.7 K per 9. And I remember the following spring, he didn't get much love from the prospect hounds at all. Coming off that, I had him in my top 100, very low in my top 100, so I was higher on him than most. And then he ended up having Tommy John surgery, so it's been kind of a moot point for the past couple years. But yeah, I see a lot to like here in Sawyer Gibson-Long. Good ground ball skills. Kind of reminds me of Reese Olson, and maybe this is why he didn't get much prospect love. Like the slider and changeup are great. They get a lot of whiffs, and he throws them a lot more than the average pitcher does. It's just the 4-seamer isn't very good, and so that scares people away. But it's worked for Reese Olson, and maybe it could work for Sawyer Gibson-Long too.
All right, Hunter Dobbins will re-enter the Red Sox rotation with Richard Fitz optioned back to AAA. And some prospect news, the Giants promoted first base prospect Bryce Eldridge to AAA. He's got big power. We could see him up at some point later this season. And Jac Caglianone, Scott, while you were away, Cags got the call. So very exciting times. He was batting 6th in his debut and already flashing premium exit velocities. He went 0 for 5, but if you dig in here, he had 4 hard hit balls, one that was 113.9 exit velocity, another that was 112.1, and the XBA on 3 of his batted balls was over 325. So seems a little like some tough luck here for the rookie.
And no strikeouts. 5 at bats, first 5 major league at bats, no strikeouts. He for as powerful as he is, and he has as much power, as much raw power as basically anyone. I mean, he's his hardest hit ball in the minors this year is a mark matched by only 5 major leaguers in all of StatCast history. So Jac Caglianone can square it up with the best of them. And for somebody who hits the ball that hard, his strikeout rate has been reasonable for the little bit of professional ball he's played. I also thought it was interesting that he started at DH. We're imagining him getting most of his playing time in the outfield, which is out of position for him. He's gotten some exposure there in the minors this year, but he's a first baseman by nature. So on days where Salvador Perez catches and Vinny Pasquantino plays first, DH is open for Caglianone, but Perez is going to need a lot of that DH time too. And I presume Caglianone will go to the outfield when that happens. It's just a presumption right now, though.
Mm-hmm. And I am pulling up your rankings real quick, Scott, to see where you put Caglianone, and it is 18th in the first base rankings, which is just ahead of Jake Berger, Jonathan Aranda, Ben Rice, and Michael Busch. And yeah, that sounds right. I think the other day, Chris and I were talking, and I said like around the 15, 16 range made a lot of sense to me. I haven't updated my rankings yet. I'm going to do it on Wednesday. So
yeah, it's tough for a player like that because he has the upside to be higher, top 12, top 10 even. But since he's newly promoted after a very brief minor league career, it's possible he goes 1 for 24 and gets sent back down. So you kind of try to find the middle ground there. I don't feel great about having Caglianone ahead of Jonathan Aranda, but I don't want to undersell the upside either.
I was surprised to see that on your end, but
yeah.
I think it makes sense. I mean, Aranda's still sitting out against some lefties here and there, and I presume Caglianone will play every day. So let's hope that is the case. Let's run through some waiver wire options from Tuesday's action. And Michael Busch had himself a big game, 3 for 4 with his 9th home run, and he has homered in back-to-back games. 76% rostered. So, I mean, this is just a shallow league name here. He's doing all the right things, Scott. He's hitting the ball hard. The plate discipline has improved. He still just isn't playing against lefties. So it puts a cap on Michael Busch's upside. And as a result, I think 76% rostered is about right for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of the same situation as Aranda, except I don't think Busch is quite as good as Aranda. I think he's good. I mean, his OPS is up near 900 now with the kind of run he's been on. But he basically never plays against left-handers, even less than Aranda. So that at a position that's becoming deeper with every call-up, that pushes Busch outside the top 20 there for me.
All right, we already spoke about Max Muncy earlier in the podcast. He is on fire, 2 more home runs here on Tuesday. Welcome back to Colton Cowser, who was in the lineup batting 6th for the Orioles, and he went 1 for 4 with his 2nd home run last year. 2nd in AL Rookie of the Year voting, hit 242 with 24 homers, 9 steals, and a 768 OPS. 68% rostered for Colton Cowser, Scott. Do you think that number needs to be higher?
Probably not. I think he needs to be rostered in 5 outfielder leagues, but very few 3 outfielder leagues are going to go deep enough in the outfield rankings to prioritize him with as little data as we have to go on. I mean, he was decent enough as a rookie, obviously 2nd in AL voting. It was a weak AL class. I'll note, remember, the winner was Luis Heel.
Whoa. No Luis Heel slander. Come on, Scott.
I'm just saying, like, all the best rookies were in the NL last year. Like the 4 best, clearly. Anyway, and he struck out 31% of the time, did Cowser as a rookie. Single digits in stolen bases. Yeah, I just don't see him as 3 outfielder material until he proves he is. He's still young enough. He hits the ball hard enough that if he can make some improvements, I could see him becoming that. But fresh off the IL, basically his season's just starting. I don't think he's there yet.
Would you take him over Barger and Parker Meadows?
I don't think I'd take Cowser over either one of those.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe we're selling him a little bit short here. I mean,
there's upside. He was a legit prospect, but
yeah.
But yeah, I see more reason for excitement with those other 2 than Cowser.
2 other outfielders. Sal Frelick is doing some things lately. Last 19 games, hitting .333 with 3 homers, 3 steals, and OPS over 850. And Alec Burleson quietly has also been pretty good here. Last 21 games, hitting .338 with 5 home runs and an OPS over 950. He's hitting the ball really hard as well. But Burleson does not play against left-handed pitching. Burleson at 53% rostered, Sal Frelick at 61%. I think those numbers probably sound about right. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're about right. I think Frelick's a little better for fantasy purposes. And in large part because Burleson sits as often as he does. And hopefully that'll change, but I have no reason to just trust that it will. And Burleson, for all his hard contact, it's not the most optimal. His pull air rate is pretty low, which is why this was just his, fifth home run of the season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've all come in the past 21 games, though.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if it's improved during that time, but for the season, the pull air rate is low. The fly ball rate is actually pretty good, just in pure fly ball rate. Yeah, I mean, obviously he was pretty good last year and he could get back to that, but I think as things currently stand, I would take Frelick between the two of them, and they're both probably just 5 outfielder league material. I could see using Frelick in a points league just because he doesn't strike out much. If the matchups are good and you have a need, I can't really see that for Burleson right now.
Tyler Stevenson continues his hot stretch with the Reds. Last 8 games, he's hitting .367 with 4 home runs, 48% rostered for Tyler Stevenson. There are 3 catchers that are rostered in more leagues than him, just above Tyler Stevenson: Gabriel Moreno, Keibert Ruiz, Carson Kelly. I think I would take Stevenson over all 3.
I do have him ranked that way, but I was hedging. I was hedging with Gabriel Moreno, especially. So it's a close call.
All right. And last name here is Willie Castro, who is picking things up 2 for 4 with a double dong, second multi-homer game in his last 5. During that span, he has 9 hits, 4 homers, 8 runs, 1 stolen base, 30% rostered. It has second, third base, shortstop, and outfield eligibility. I think mostly 12-team roto or deeper type player. Scott, you can move Willie Castro around. He has some utility, but yeah. No, I'm not sure that he's like a must add, despite a great game.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to be a huge power guy, even though he's had a couple multi-homer games recently. And I'll note his pull air rate is up. It's the best it's ever been. But it's been pretty good in the past. And the 2 fantasy relevant years he's had, 2024 and 2023, he's combined 21 home runs between the 2. So I don't think this is a power guy. He did have 33 steals in 2023. And if he was still running like that, it might be a different story, but he hasn't really shown that anywhere close to that same inclination to steal bases. Only has 3 of those this year, does Willie Castro.
All right. Who would you take between him and Jose Caballero, who's another just, awesome position eligibility, you can move him around type player for fantasy?
Well, if you desperately need steals, I think Caballero's the way to go. I think Willie Castro's a little better overall, though.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, let's take our final break. When we return, some waiver wire pitchers, players who are streaking, and much more. We'll do that right after this.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Quickly run through the waiver wire pitchers here. Tomoyuki Sugano had a great start at the Mariners, 7 innings, 1 run with 5 strikeouts. Cade Horton, an okay start at the Nationals, 5 1/3, 3 runs allowed with 3 strikeouts. He also changed up his pitch mix quite a bit in that one. Cade Horton, that was a little interesting. Shane Smith actually picked up a win. How about that? Against the Tigers, 5 1/3 shutout. With 6 strikeouts, he had 13 whiffs on 85 pitches. Another one who changed up his pitch mix, mostly fastballs and curveballs in that one. And Landon Root, a quality start against the Padres, 6 1/3 shutout with 5 strikeouts there. 13 whiffs on 92 pitches. And stop me if you've heard this before, but he changed up his pitch mix quite a bit to start. He threw a bunch more changeups and it was a great pitch for him, Scott. So how would you rank this group? Landon Roop, Shane Smith, Cade Horton, and Tomoyuki Sugano.
I would rank them Shane Smith number 1 pretty clearly. And it wasn't just that he won a game here. Like he had been, his last couple of starts were among his worst, and it looked like, okay, maybe he's running out of steam. But everything was up 1 to 2 miles per hour in this start. He threw his curveball a lot more, and it's been a good whiff pitch. It was responsible for 6 of the 13 in this start. And I think there's a lot more to like than dislike about Shane Smith, with the main thing to dislike being his supporting cast, obviously. But I think 57% rostered is way too low given how he's looked overall this year. So Shane Smith is number 1. It's a closer call for number 2, because obviously Sugano has been, 304 ERA, 104 whip, steady enough in a really unexciting way, and in a way I don't totally trust to continue because the strikeouts are so lacking. But I could see you defaulting to Sugano as number 2 just with that ERA and whip and how deep he pitches into games. But I've really liked what Landon Roop has shown here lately. So Landon Roop, 6 1/3 shutout innings here on Tuesday. And this is 4 starts now, 4-start stretch for Landon Roop with 1 earned run allowed between them. So 1 earned run over his last 4 starts combined. This was also his 4th straight start with increased changeup usage. It started out low. He was leaning so much into that curveball, and then more changeups has a good start, more changeups has a good start, more, up to 35% in this one. 8 whiffs on the changeup of the 13 total that he got in this start against the Padres. So I think he's figured something out, because we know the curveball is good if he's added this other pitch to keep hitters honest, and he's finding the success he has recently by doing that. I could see Roop turning into something still. Is it enough for me to put him ahead of Sugano? I mean, I'm so underwhelmed by Sugano's I don't know the best way to put it. I guess just his lack of whiffs, that maybe Roop beats him out for me with this changeup use. It could be transformative for him.
Yeah, I like it. I like that call. And Landon Roop, I mean, something that really stood out for me is he's throwing a lot more strikes, Scott. I mean, he has 2 walks or fewer in 7 straight outings here for Landon Roop. And that was a huge problem for him early on in the season. I mean, he throws that curveball so much. It's hard to command. It's hard to throw for strikes. So, mixing in some other things, throwing the sinker, throwing the changeup more, seems like he has better command of those pitches, and as a result, throwing more strikes. So I do like Shane Smith and Landon Roop at the top of this list. They're both RP eligible for those in points leagues. And then I would go Sugano and Cade Horton after that. Horton has been okay at run prevention so far, but he's not going deep into starts, and strikeouts haven't been there either. He's still super young, and he can figure things out. It's just I've been a little bit underwhelmed so far from Cade Horton. We're going streaking, Scott. Let's start with some of the hitters here. Some names that have really picked things up lately. Jose Ramirez is on fire. Last 30 games, he is hitting .385 with 6 homers, 11 steals, and a 1074 OPS. He's awesome. I mean, this is what we're expecting from Jose Ramirez. Trey Turner, also on a tear here. Last 14 games, hitting .339 with 5 homers, 6 steals, 13 runs, 13 RBI during that time. So nice to see that after a bit of a slow start from Trey Turner. Junior Caminero.
Caminero.
Somebody should probably sign Junior Caminero's hitting coach from the Dominican Republic, because that dude works wonders. 1 for 3 with a sock in the shoe here for Caminero. And I think it was on May 22nd, he was batting .230 with a .662 OPS. In 11 games since, he's hit .395 with 6 homers, 18 RBI, and lifting the ball more, hitting it very hard, obviously. And boom, all of a sudden, the overall numbers just look awesome here for Junior Caminero. A couple other names here. Christian Walker, last 8 games, hitting .321 with 3 homers. Isaac Paredes has 8 home runs over his last 20 games. Fly ball rate, pull rate, way up for him. And Alec Bohm, last 26 games, hitting .347 with 5 home runs and an OPS over 900. So lots of names here, lots of numbers, Scott, but anything that stands out for these hitters who are streaking right now?
I mean, Caminero stands out the most. And obviously, he had a world of talent. And so those who were patient with him are being rewarded now. It was tough because there were times, and frankly, if third base had looked better overall, I probably would have dropped Caminero down my rankings. But I basically kept him in the same spot, which is, let's see, it is that seventh in my third base rankings. It may have been 8th when Alex Bregman was still healthy.
Yeah, it looks like you have 6th.
Yeah, 6th, and I've moved to 6th in Roto. I think I have 7th in head-to-head points, but it's actually the head-to-head points number I was going to comment on here because his head-to-head points per game now, Junior Caminero, is now almost to where Manny Machado's is, which a few weeks ago it was bad. It was more like Josh Smith level, and the turnaround is just so stark for Junior Caminero. But the expected stats back it up. Of course, he hits the ball incredibly hard. That's always true. Doesn't strike out much for somebody who hits the ball that hard, and normally that works out. Don't tell that to Jordan Walker, but normally it works out. And it seems to be working. Maybe Jordan Walker needs to go visit that hitting coach. I don't know. Though, to be honest, Jordan Walker's strikeout rate is really blown up here. Trending the wrong direction. But yeah, Junior Caminero's great.
Yep. One name who's streaking in the wrong direction is Wyatt Langford. He went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He has just 1 multi-hit game since April 26th. And during that span, 34 games, he's hitting .169, does have 5 homers, 7 steals, 29% strikeout rate. That is elevated, but Langford's still hitting the ball hard during that stretch. His BABIP is just .207. So when I dig in a little bit deeper here, Scott, it feels like Langford has been pretty unlucky. And if anybody out there is worrying, I would be looking to buy on a Wyatt Langford.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I haven't moved him down. He is one of the outfielders I've moved Pete Crow Armstrong ahead of, though. Got Pete Crow Armstrong up to 14th now.
Right. Cubs
that's the most interesting thing I have to say about Wyatt Langford.
All right, what about pitchers who are streaking right now? Carlos Rodon, over his last 9 starts, a 1.27 ERA and a .85 WHIP, 70 strikeouts over 56 2/3. He has been awesome. Tanner Bybee, over his last 8 starts, a 3.10 ERA, a 1.14 WHIP. Strikeouts still aren't there, and really changed up the pitch mix here. It still just kind of seems like Tanner Bybee is searching right now. And then Drew Rasmussen, who over his last 4 starts, all shutout starts, 23 shutout innings, 10 hits, 3 walks, 21 strikeouts here during that stretch for Drew Rasmussen. Scott, anything on these 3, Rasmussen, Bybee, and Carlos Rodon?
Yeah, Rodon continues to do his thing. I think he's up to 20th in my rest of season rankings at starting pitcher. But we've told his story pretty often at this point. Don't really need to get into that more. Bybee, you mentioned he's changed his pitch mix. He practically ditched the sinker and cutter in this start, and both of those pitches have a high batting average against. So there may be something to that for Bybee. Obviously got a good result against a good offensive club here in the Yankees. And he has looked better overall recently, kind of hit or miss. But I think overall he's trending the right direction, and you're going to be happy you held on to him. Let's talk about Rasmussen, because I almost chose him for, oh my goodness gracious player the night. And then I decided Lance McCullers was actually earned more of that reaction for me than Rasmussen. But Rasmussen had a great start, 1 hit in 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, no walks. It was his 4th straight scoreless start. But he went only 5 innings. The previous 3, he went 6 innings. And those were his first 3 6-inning starts of the year. So you think, okay, maybe the Rays are letting him go longer now, finally. The thing is, he's just, I think he went 6 innings in those starts just because he happened to be so ridiculously efficient. He has yet to throw 90 pitches. 90. Yet to throw 90 pitches in a single start this year, Drew Rasmussen. And only once has he gotten to 85. So that is a really limited workload. And not only that, his BABIP for the year is 225. I think maybe you could make a case for that continuing for a fly ball pitcher, but that's not Drew Rasmussen. He's a ground ball pitcher. And you look historically at his BABIPs, they're higher than 225. This is an outlier for his career. So if the limited pitch usage continues and we see some BABIP regression for him, I don't know. I think there will be stretches where we're not as thrilled with him. And we've only recently gotten his roster rate up to a high level. I think the limited innings were constraining it. So I don't know how high you could really sell on Rasmussen. And I'm not saying you have to. Obviously, he's doing your ratios a lot of good. He's relief pitcher eligible in points leagues, which you love. If you want to stick with him, it's fine. But I do think it's more likely he gets less valuable from this very point, coming off the 4th straight scoreless outing, than that he gets more valuable.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Let's run through some polarizing pitchers here, Scott. We had 2 bad and 2 good here on Tuesday. Spencer Strider struggled once again against the D-backs. 5 innings, 5 runs, 3 homers allowed in this one. He did have 14 whiffs on 85 pitches. And I know Chris, a couple of weeks ago, brought up the stat that, and I don't know what it is exactly, but it was something along the lines of, in games where Strider has averaged like 96 miles per hour or less on his fastball, he gives up a lot more hard contact. And I just wonder how much of a consistent issue that's going to be for him, because that really has been the biggest problem for Strider so far through 4 starts. And the other one here was George Kirby. Actually, he was okay. Like, he wasn't bad or anything. He was, better than he had been. Actually got hit in the face by a line drive, but his glove kind of like slowed it down a little bit. So he was like bleeding from his mouth, but it seems like he's okay. That's good there. 5 innings, 2 runs, 3 strikeouts here for George Kirby. And before we get into Kirby, let's talk about Strider, because I guess Chris was watching and he wanted to weigh in on.
No, actually, I just wanted to. Did you guys see the Pablo Lopez update?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Lat strain probably going on the IL.
Ooh.
Just wanted to jump in here and mention that. Also, hello, Scott.
Hello.
Nice to see you. I hope your vacation was nice.
It was good. We'll be seeing a lot of each other in the next couple of days.
Yeah. We don't need to talk today. We'll be talking a lot. Also, Spencer Strider, after this week, home start versus Colorado, at Miami are his next 2 starts. So there are reasons to be worried. He's probably going to be pretty good for at least a couple of weeks there.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. Maybe.
He better be.
I hope so.
Let's make this a thing. Whenever there's breaking news, Chris, you can just hop on. And
all right. Well, okay, but we've done this before, and I've accidentally ended the stream. So this time I'm just going to close out.
Yes, just
and not
out the tab. Like, don't touch anything else.
All right. I'll see you guys. Enjoy your time off, Frank. Bye.
Yes, thank you. All right, Scott. So polarizing pitchers here. Just quickly,
we're still here.
Again, it's Strider, Kirby, Zac Gallen, and Sandy Alcantara. Anything you'd like to add on those 4? I mean, exactly that. Very polarizing season so far for all of them.
Yeah. Oh, man. I feel like there's a lot to get into and not enough time to do it. Let's start with Kirby. His best start, clearly, but also clearly not where we want him to be. 9 base runners in 5 innings, only 3 strikeouts. I still don't see a lot underneath that really explains it. Not even strike rate. His strike rate's been fine. I think it was 67% strikes in this one. I don't know. I think in the long run he's going to be fine. It's just taking a while to get there. Strider, I don't know if he's going to be fine. It's really kind of depressing because I have never had more fun watching a pitcher than Strider at his best, when it just seemed like nobody could touch him, and he clearly can't blow away hitters like that with the velocity he has. Now, I do think there's a path to success, presuming he doesn't regain the velocity, because his secondary offerings all have a very high whiff rate, and he used them more in this start. He used more curveballs. I don't think he actually used more changeups, but of the 5 changeups he threw, 3 got whiffs. I think that was the pitch Ketel Marte hit 440 something feet too, though. So, but anyway, he's got the slider, the curveball, the changeup, all with a really high whiff rate. He's learning to use the curveball and changeup more, and that might make him effective still. Will it make him the must-see TV, blow every hitter away kind of pitcher he was prior to the elbow surgery? No, but for fantasy purposes, it might be enough. But he's got to locate better than he has, and like he can't get away with the stuff that he used to get away with, is the bottom line. And asking a pitcher to just command better, that's a skill that not everybody has, and we're kind of asking that of Strider, even with as good as his secondary offerings are. So I know that's kind of a mushy mouthed answer and doesn't really say anything definitive, but yeah, it's concerned. I'm concerned. I see reasons for optimism, and Chris mentioned the upcoming matchups, which are favorable, and probably why you just got to hold your breath and start him. But I wish I had. It's a lot more hoping than believing at this point, I would say, for Spencer Strider.
Mm-hmm.
Zac Gallen threw 73% of his pitches for strikes. That had been a huge problem for him this year, only 61%. He also changed his pitch mix a little bit, but more than anything, I just think if he's able to throw strikes like this, he's going to be okay. One start doesn't confirm he will be, but it's a good step for Zac Gallen. And then finally, Sandy Alcantara, kind of the same thing. The control had been so bad, and in this start, he threw 66% of his pitches for strikes. It was against the Rockies, so I think there's even more reason for skepticism with Alcantara. I'm not ready to start him again, and I don't think he needs to be added everywhere he was dropped after this start. But it is a step in the right direction.
All right, some other leftovers here on the pitching side. Paul Skeens took a tough luck loss against the Astros. 8 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 21 whiffs on 99 pitches for him. Freddie Peralta, a quality start at the Reds, 6+ innings, 3 runs with a season-high 9 strikeouts. He had 20 whiffs on 103 pitches. And Christopher Sanchez, a quality start at the Blue Jays, 6 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. Also had 4 walks, and I noticed he has 3 or more walks in 5 of 7 starts since he was dealing with that arm injury back on April 22nd. He still mostly has been fine, but the control has been a little bit off since then. Scott, anything on Sanchez, Peralta, and Paul Skeens?
I mean, it's frustrating what's going on with Sanchez's control. And we saw this from him last year when he was throwing the ball harder as well. It wasn't there at the beginning of this year. The walks, it was just added velocity, and the control's still good. And wow, what does the upside look like if that's the case? But the control has clearly dropped off here. And is it a worthy trade-off for Sanchez, the extra velocity for reduced control? I'm still not sure that it is. So 5 of his last 7 starts now, 3 walks or more. And he's been okay, but the whip is getting pretty high at this point. He's still closer to must start than not, I would say, Sanchez. But I don't think this is the best we've ever seen him.
All right, on the hitting side of things, a couple leftovers here for the D-backs. Huge games for both of their stars here. Corbin Carroll, 3 for 4 with a double dong and had 4 RBI. He hit just 214 in May. The power and speed obviously has still been great. He's already up to 18 home runs. I think his career high is 25. So, Corbin Carroll has had a ridiculous season. Only 10 steals is kind of weird for him, but Obviously, you'll take it. Ketel Marte, 3 for 3 with a double dong, 3 RBI. Speaking of the RBI, Scott, Ketel Marte has 10 homers and 16 RBI on the season, which almost seems impossible.
As Corbin Carroll keeps homering ahead of him.
That is true.
Never on base.
Bobby Witt went 2 for 4 with his 7th home run. Powered down a little bit this season. Pulled air percentages down a little bit, barrel rate down a little bit. I don't know. I would still expect, maybe Bobby Witt doesn't get all the way back to last year's power, but I still would expect it to pick up a little bit here. And Juan Soto, 1 for 5 with his 11th home run, and he's been hitting for more power lately as well. So good.
Yeah, I'm sure you're frustrated if you took Bobby Witt ahead of either Ohtani or Judge, or perhaps even both. But I want to check last year. I feel like it took a while for the power to pick up last year too. So he hit 4 home runs in April, 5 in May, 3 in June. So halfway through the season, he only had 12. He hit 17, a combined 17 in July and August.
Okay.
And that's the way it goes, It's not like it's a steady distribution all season long.
The weather's heating up, Scott, so hopefully that ball starts flying out. Not for our pitcher's sake, but for Bobby Witt's sake, that would be nice. Call to the bullpen for the Rockies. Zac Agnos is on the bereavement list, so Seth Halverson got the 9th inning and picked up his 3rd save, and the first series win for the Rockies all season. How about that? For the Astros, Josh Hader struck out 2 for his 16th save. For the Reds, Emilio Pagan struck out 1 for his 15th save. For the Royals, Carlos Estevez gave up a hit and a walk, but picked up his 17th save. For the Giants, trouble in paradise, Camilo Doval got the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He gave up 2 runs on 2 walks and 2 hits, took his 3rd blown save, and the Padres would eventually win that game in extra innings. For the Mets, Edwin Diaz was unavailable after pitching yesterday. Huáscar Brazaban got the 9th inning, and he gave up that solo homer to Max Muncy to tie the game, and the Mets would wind up losing in extra innings as well. To stream or not to stream for Wednesday, we have Luis Ortiz at the Yankees, Clark Schmidt home against the Guardians, Jose Soriano at the Red Sox, Lucas Giolito home against the Angels, Mick Abel at the Blue Jays, Noah Cameron at the Cardinals, Kyle Harrison versus the Padres, and Zebby Matthews at the Athletics.
Okay, there's some interesting names here. I think I'm most interested in using Clark Schmidt against the Guardians. Obviously, Mick Abel and Zebby Matthews have a lot of upside. Abel has the better matchup, I would say, at Toronto versus Matthews at the Athletics. But I worry about length for both of them. Obviously, Sacramento's looking like a tough place to pitch for Zebby Matthews there. And Abel is just one start that we're going on. He went back to the minors, and the 2 starts he had there were strong enough, but he walked a decent number of hitters. I think it was like 6 walks between the 2 starts. And that was the weird thing about his major league debut, is just why his control was so good, because we hadn't seen that from him in the minors. And it'd be awfully gutsy to start him in his first game back, I would say.
I guess this is a bad time to tell you that Chris and I picked him up in the NFBC league, and we're starting him this week.
The team we share?
Yeah, we picked up Mick Abel, and we're starting him.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with picking him up. He has upside, and hopefully he's here to stay this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually 7 walks in 10 2/3 innings, his 2 starts back at AAA.
Yeah. He did have 8 strikeouts in each, but yeah, I totally hear you on the control there from Mick Abel. And then on Thursday, surprisingly enough, we actually have a pretty big slate of games on Thursday, 12 games, but a lot of good pitchers. I mean, most of these guys are already rostered. I mean, there's only 3 names that I saw that might be available. Slade Ciccone at the Yankees, Sean Burke versus the Tigers, and Jake Irvin versus the Cubs.
Yeah. I don't know. Better to stream Wednesday than Thursday, I guess.
I think that's probably the answer. All right, Scott, welcome back. Happy to have you back on the podcast. Reminder to everyone, again, I'll be gone for the next 3 podcasts, but Scott and Chris will be here to hold it down for you guys. We're going to wrap there. For Scott, I'm Frank. Thanks, as always, for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball Today. please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.